Okay, so let's do a little bit of breathing. Hi, if you're just joining me, welcome. My name is Leslie Germain, and this is a little handstand workshop. It's only going to be 45 minutes or so, so it'll be over by 1. Um, it's not going to be really a traditional flow. I'm going to give you more movements that allow you to enter into handstands more safely and things that you can practice either between vinyasas when you're practicing on your own or at home, especially right now, right? Little things that you can add on to eventually jump into handstand in the middle of a room, maybe. Okay. So feel free to comment down below. I have this being filmed on my computer right now. Ooh. All right, let's find a seat. Closing our eyes, placing our hands on our knees, and just taking a moment to feel within. Notice your breath. And notice how your body feels this afternoon. What sensations might arise. Relax the shoulders, relax the jaw. And while we're here, since this is a handstand workshop, take a moment and visualize yourself in handstand. See yourself upside down, supported by your hands. And in this visualization, you might still have a wall behind you. Or maybe you're on a beach. But use the power of your mind. See yourself there. And once we start developing that practice, then over time, our bodies can see it. And we can start to move deeper into those strong handstands. Okay, welcome. So before we go into any handstand work, it's super important to warm up the wrists and the forearms. Now, I do sometimes lead a class and I'll have us jump straight into handstand just for fun. But if you really want to hold handstand and feel the strength within, it's very important that you open up parts of the body to get there. And usually those stiff areas are the wrists and the fingers, the forearms, and the shoulders. So all that upper body work. And then the rest of it, besides flexibility, is a lot of strength because your whole body's engaged in handstand. You know, you've spent your whole life learning how to walk on 2 feet. And you know your body innately knows how to do that. Imagine if you're walking on your hands your whole life. Your body would innately know the muscles that you need to engage just to move in that way. And if you were a gymnast, this pretty much comes second nature to you. You can do handstands pretty easily. I was not a gymnast. I was not a dancer. So I have to really work on my handstands, especially breaking these old patterns because I developed patterns to get me there. And they're actually detrimental to me eventually doing them in the middle of a room. So the first thing we're going to do is some finger warm-ups. I'll get a little closer since it's just the fingers. And so for the fingers, spread them nice and wide. Spread all the webbing. Mm-hmm. And then just bending from that top first knuckle. Don't worry about the thumbs, just the 4 fingers on each hand. And then bend from the second until you eventually propel the fingers forward. If we were making shadow puppets, this would be a dinosaur or something. And then close the fingers into the palms, squeezing really tight. And then knock the knuckles towards the forearms. Okay, and then open back up. Really wide, expanding it as much as you can. It's almost like it's a back bend in the palms, right? And then bend the knuckles. Second knuckle, send the fingers forward. Closing, a little knock. Let's do that one more time, opening a little bigger. Feel the fingers web. Start to bend. Send the fingers forward, shooting towards each other or towards the front of the room. Squeeze and then knock and shake, shake, shake. Okay. That's just getting a little movement. Finger flicks here. We're going to do about a minute finger flicks because if your house is like mine, it is chilly. It's really cold. And my fingers and my toes, they are getting the least amount of blood flow in them. And so they're the coldest. They're pretty much always cold unless I'm wrapped up in a blanket. So keep flicking those fingers even harder. I know you want to do like da-da-da, pretty little. No, we're not doing fireflies or anything. We're using these finger muscles. You have them. They're there. Keep going. Act as though you have water on your hands and you're trying to get it off, right? Or if you're like my kids, slime. That slime is ridiculous. Do not allow slime in your house. Keep going. We'll do 10 more seconds. Flick, flick, flick. How's your thumb? How are your fingers? Are they getting tired? Yeah. We got to build that muscle strength. And release. Shake, shake, shake. Okay. Fingers are nice and warmed up, at least a little bit. Now we're going to come to the wrists and the forearms. So coming into tabletop position, bring your hands out so your fingertips are facing away from each other. I don't know if you can see it on my carpet very well. I'll walk back so you can see. And then you can have your hands shoulder distance apart. Begin to lean over to the right and over to the left. And go to whatever degree you need to so you can feel a stretch in that inner forearm. So if you can't really feel it too deep here, walk your hands in a little bit closer together and then start to lean yourself over. And you'll feel it a little more in this situation if you didn't feel it yet. We'll do another 1 or 2 on each side. More fluid-like than mechanical if you can. And then maybe you start to draw circles with the hips while your palms push down into the ground. Reversing direction. Just using your mobility in your wrists a little bit more. All right, coming back up. And between any handstand or forearm work, I shake out my wrists. I flick the fingers just to give a little bit of release. Sometimes I'll do a little wrist circle and switch direction. Okay. So now we're going to take our hands into fists, placing them down into the mat, bending your elbows and resting your forearms down on the ground here. Now we're going to feel the stretch along the outer forearm. So to feel that, squeeze your hands into fists and then push the palms, the top of the palms down into the ground as you begin to straighten the arms as much as you can. Honey, you have to go in the other room. Okay, I'll do it later, okay? I'll do it later. I see it. Thank you. Close your door. Yoga at home is not the same as yoga in the studio. It's hard for a 5-year-old to stay in their room for an hour. All right, come back down. And then once again, push the tops of the hands down into the ground as you straighten your arms as much as you can. If you can only go here and you feel a nice deep stretch, that is great. That is exactly where you need to be. Maybe you can go a little bit higher with the elbows. Maybe you can straighten them all the way as you continue pushing your hands down into the ground for 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Shake it out, roll it out. Maybe finger flicks. You're just keeping your wrists nice and warmed up. Your forearms as well. Okay. Cat-cow. As you come into forearm position, inhale, drop the belly, gazing forward. Exhale, rounding the spine. Just getting a little movement along the spine, warming up the body before we go into our downward facing dog. And you might be thinking, why the heck do I need to do downward facing dog for handstand? Well, besides needing flexibility in your fingertips, your wrists, and your forearms, you also want to have your hamstrings nice and stretched out. The more you can stretch out the back of the legs, the better chance you have of floating up into handstand versus jumping up into handstand. And when we jump up into handstand, we typically fall, yeah? So we might fall into a cartwheel, we might fall into the wall, You might fall into a wheel if you have a really open back bend and you know that's not going to break you. I do not recommend it. If you feel like you're going to fall back, find a wall. Follow the wall. Your friend is right here. But when your hamstrings are nice and open, you can lift that top leg a little bit higher and then start to pull your weight forward instead of jumping up. So over time, it allows you to safely enter handstand and not fall out as easily. So let's find our way into downward facing dog by tucking the toes and beginning to lift the hips up and high away. Maybe you cycle your legs here. Now we're going to be here about 10 breaths. So however you like to move in your downward dog, go ahead. And for this specific downward dog, we're really trying to lengthen the back of the legs, the calves, the space behind the knee, and those really big hamstring muscles. We're about halfway through. Maybe you start to bring both heels down at the same time while pushing your hands into the ground. Maybe you can push the hips up a little bit higher, engaging the belly, navel into spine for 3. And 2. 1. Exhale as you lower all the way down into child's pose. So this child's pose is going to aim for opening up the shoulders. So walk the hands out as far as you can. Bring the forehead down to the ground. Now, if you're lucky, you might have blocks nearby. Yeah, I know I have them somewhere. My kids use them as toys. And if you don't have blocks, you can also find a couple books and place them down. And you may already have pretty tight shoulders and you don't need the blocks, okay? This is just an extra thing to help you open up the shoulders. So I'll show you without the blocks first, and then if you need a little bit more, we'll use them as well. Okay? So to open up the shoulders here, bring your palms together and allow your thumbs to reach for the back of the neck. And then all you have to do is start to walk each elbow forward 1 millimeter or so as you push the chest down a little closer to your mat. Every breath, the chest searches a little deeper, as though somebody's pushing in that upper back with a loving touch, pushing you down, down, down. At any point, if this is too much for your shoulders or armpits, release your hands back down to the ground. If it still isn't enough, lift your gaze slightly forward. You can even rest your chin instead of your forehead or the tip of your nose. And then exhale, palms come down, rolling yourself up. Shoulder rolls here. Nice and big circles. Okay, so we're going to do that one more time. And if it didn't feel quite as deep as you want to go, because the deeper you can open up these shoulders, the more stacked your handstand will be, then go ahead and find your props. And when you find your props, you're going to place one elbow. Your elbows will go on top and your head will go in between the blocks, okay? So I'm going to try to place them here so you can see the side profile. Elbows come down, walk, walk, walk. Bringing my palms together. And maybe the thumbs reach the back of my neck. It doesn't really matter if they can. I just bring them down as far as I can. And the goal here is to once again push the chest down. So notice where you're holding resistance, where you're holding on to fear. And don't go at your 100%, especially if you're feeling fearful. Handstand is a scary pose. And a lot of the reasons we can't get into it is because of the fear behind it. So if we can enter into all of these poses at an 80% or even a 50% of our body's capabilities, then we're rewiring our mind to let us know it's center and that we're strong enough and flexible enough. And so and your mind will work together. You will jump up into fun. More breath. Exhale, releasing everything back down, moving your props out of the way, and doing a few more shoulder rolls once again. Taking the right arm, reaching it across, left elbow hooks. So maybe you're feeling a stretch now along more of the rotator cuff and it's going down the bicep, tricep. Keep pulling the arm across the chest, behind. And then switching sides. Don't worry. My fingertips are still freezing. Should have worn a sweatshirt. All right. Finger flicks, shake, shake, shake. Okay. 15 minutes of warm up, basically in the fingers, the wrists, the forearms, and the shoulders, and a little bit of the hamstrings. We're going to do a few asanas right now to get the blood pumping, to get our body moving. So we'll do about 3 or 5, depending on the vinyasa. Go ahead. Otherwise, follow me. Let's start in downward facing dog. And then inhale, shifting your weight forward into high plank, holding here. So while you're in this high plank, bring awareness to the back of the heart. Protract the shoulder blades by pulling the shoulder blades. Will wrap forward. They're wrapping down and forward, yes? Because we're going to want that in handstand. And now we retract. Squeezing the blades together. And then once again, push, 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 push. And keep pushing. Push so much that your core lifts even a little bit, your booty lifts a little bit, right? Legs are nice and long and strong. And now if you were in handstand, you would be in a to keep engagement in the muscles while keeping the shoulder blades pulling apart at the same time. See that little subtlety there? So let's try that again. Bring your knees down. Take a breath. If you want to watch me first, go ahead. First, we're coming into regular plank, and then we do a super dome, just pulling everything up, contracting all of our muscles, pushing our hands into the ground. And then I pull my sternum up closer to my head. More of a handstand shape versus this one. Muscles. Okay? So you try it. Hold it for 3. 2, keep pushing the sternum forward. Down, knees down, chest down, chin down, everything down. Inhale, Sphinx pose. You're like, Leslie, this is not a normal vinyasa. I know. Sphinx pose, pushing your hands directly under the shoulders, and then push the left. So you're engaging the core, belly button to spine. Exhale. Child's pose, or pushing yourself up into plank, coming back into downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Inhale. Exhale, looking forward as you bend the knees and float yourself as lightly as you can to the front of your mat. Was that light? I don't know. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come back down. Let's walk ourselves back into high plank. Find that domey plank with a sternum reaching forward for 1 inhale. Exhale, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Maybe you do Sphinx pose again. And then exhale, child's pose or plank into downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. If your heels are on the ground, walk your feet a little bit back and push the hips up a little higher again, creating a little more length along the back channel of the body. Inhale. On your exhale, bend the knees, look forward, step, hop, or float. Yes, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come back down, step the right foot back and then the left, high plank. Find that handstand plank. For this handstand plank, if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, walk the hands forward slightly. We want to go as far as possible. You might be able to walk your hands very, very far away. Anara, no. I'll ask your daddy. Why is it that they interrupt the mommies and not the daddies when they're at work? You ever wonder? One more breath. Exhale. Forearms down, Sphinx pose. Exhale. Finding your way into your down dog. Let's just do one more of those. See how slowly you can float yourself to the front of the mat. Maybe you clap your feet together on the way there. So inhale, exhale, bend the knees, clap the feet, hips go high, bring the feet forward as close as you can to your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come down as your left foot goes back, right foot goes back. Plank pose. Find the dome. Yeah, maybe you walk your hands out again. Staying on your fingertips this time. Woo! Oh my goodness. For 3, 2, 1. Exhale, Sphinx pose or Chaturanga. You're finding your way into your back bend, whether that be Cobra, Sphinx, or upward facing dog. Setting up for pyramid here. I want to open up the back of the legs just a little bit more. Setting the left hip back, right hip forward, and then hinging from the hip halfway. So it might be useful to find your blocks again, to place your hands down on the blocks. If you want to reach for the ground, go ahead. My hamstrings are acting up a little bit today, so I'm going to bend that front knee a little bit more as I draw the left hip back, right hip forward. And eventually you forward fold, allowing your head and neck to soften. Feel free to bend the knees as much as you need to, and straighten them if you need. Alexa, stop. Okay, she's letting me know it's almost handstand time. It's very sweet of her, isn't it? All right, coming into standing splits, walking your hands forward, lifting the right leg high in the air. So the reason standing splits is nice to practice handstand is because we can bring our hands down to the ground and then begin to lift that left heel up high while the right leg lifts a little higher. So you see where that hamstring flexibility comes in, yeah? So the more open your hamstrings are, the more you can lift the right leg off the ground and the heel, bringing weight into your hands. Exhale. Let's try that one more time. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Bringing yourself down to the ground, wrist circles. Okay, so you have your hands down on the ground, and there are lots of different ways that I see handstanders practice handstand, depending on how their hands are. And so you'll see some people who really grip the ground. They are clawing the ground like crazy. And so they're finding balance between the heel of their hand and their fingertips. So when their legs are up in the air, they're constantly moving in this little subtle way with their hands on the ground. And they're clawing, clawing, clawing. Now that's okay. However, if you do practice in that way, know that you might be prone to more injuries in the wrist and the forearms. So you're developing that type of habit because it's easier to maintain balance when you're clawing the ground, but you're asking a lot more of these really tiny muscles. So the way that I like to practice it is having my palms flat on the ground, and I sometimes have a little curl, but where I'm really pushing is right here, the webbing underneath the knuckles, especially underneath my pointer knuckle. This one right here is pushing like crazy. And so I'm maintaining balance mostly on the palm of my hand and the heel of my hand, but I don't want to have a whole lot of weight here. I want it to be lighter here in the carpal tunnel area than anywhere else. Most of my balance is going to be in the top of my hand. Okay, so this next time when we do standing splits, I really want you to think about how much weight and awareness you're pushing down into your knuckles. Okay, so let's try it again. Coming back into your downward facing dog. Inhale, sending that left leg up high, keeping the hips square. Notice the awareness in your hands here. How is that webbing the knuckle right underneath the index finger? And then exhale, bring that right foot in halfway. Pivot the back heel down. Inhale, rise, preparing for pyramid. Left hip forward, right hip back. Inhale, sternum lifts. Exhale, come down halfway. Find length here. Right hip goes back, left hip goes forward. Maybe your hands come down to the block. Maybe they find the ground. If you need to bend the knees, go ahead as you forward fold. Okay, finding your way into standing splits as you walk your hands forward. Maybe they're down a block still. Let's bring the palms down this time, right? So that knuckle, that little webbing right underneath the index finger is pushing down as you lift the left leg up. Left leg lifts as you reach the right heel up. You might need to walk your hands a little further away if you're feeling like your hips are getting too high and it's too scary. If you're wanting to make it a little harder, you walk your hands in, closer to your feet. Just find that distance that feels nice and comfortable for you. Pushing the knuckle down. Inhale, lift the left heel or the left leg, right heel. Exhale, lower. Let's do that one more time. Inhale. Exhale. Woo, okay. Wrist circles. How'd that feel? Like maybe you can feel the weight in your hands and how you're finding a little bit of balance to one day float that leg up instead of jump that leg up. I mean, obviously we can jump. Don't worry, we're about to do that right now. I'm just going to show you one more thing before we go to the wall. So when we're doing our handstands, it's important to find that protraction of the shoulder blades with the sternum lifted at the same time. So one thing I like to do is bring my hands out and externally open. So as though we're opening up a jar, externally open. So now my shoulders are pulling and wrapping forward. And then I bring my left hand or my hand to my bicep. And I'm just going to move my wrist, my fingertips pointing up. So I'm still trying to keep this external rotation of the arm and my fingertips, my forearm move in the opposite direction. So external rotation, internal rotation. It's weird at first, but that's the movement we want to have when we're going into handstand. Otherwise, we might find that we're hunching into our shoulders, and that's not very supportive. So that's a really nice tip that I like to give students. So right here, reach out, externally rotate, and you might have to take your hand to your upper arms until you start to figure out how you can keep isolation in the shoulders and move those forearms and wrists up. And then when we're here, draw the belly button into the spine. Don't do the banana back if you can help it. And then begin to lift the arms up high until eventually you're in handstand on your knees. Feel the shoulders wrap, 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 wrap. Okay, one more breath. Exhale, release. Okay, find your wall. So there are different ways I'm going to show you to get into handstand today. If you're still exhibiting a lot of fear in handstand, that is normal. And so you're going to approach handstand differently than if you don't have fear. And if you're feeling like when we were doing the jumps from downward dog forward, if you felt airtime, if you felt that airtime, then when you kick up to the wall, you're less likely to kick a hole in your wall, right? We just had our drywall redone. I don't trust this drywall. I'm like, I'm probably going to make a hole in it one day by accident. And then I'll just know that's where a new picture has to go, right? Who knows what's behind this? It could be a hole. It could just be a picture. You'll never know. Okay. So the first way to go into your handstand supported is to bring yourself against a wall. I'm going to use this wall here. My door. And measure the distance between your legs and your hips. So if we were to go upside down into an L shape, we would know that our hands, if they're on the outsides of our hips here, our legs will be able to reach the wall. If I bring my hands here, you can see my legs don't be too far to reach, okay? So we want to be closer, not further. You can walk your hands in a little closer, that's fine. Just know it's going to be a little harder to get your feet up originally, but it's definitely doable. So find that spot that was hip distance or a little less between the wall and your feet. Find your way into your downward facing dog. And then you'll start to walk yourself up the wall, starting with bringing one foot a little higher than your hips or hip high. And we're going to walk all the way up into handstand. So we're not doing that L shape. Sometimes I will have us do an L shape. Today, I want you to just do handstand. So you're going to be like an angled handstand here. And remember the actions that we've learned. Draw the belly button into the spine. Wrap the shoulder blades towards the front of the body.
I know when you're upside down, it's like, what is she talking about? And then do the awareness in that knuckle region. And then, or unless you're clawing the ground, that's a option too. Maybe you start to slide the right knee into the chest and hold here, finding that compression of the core. And then switch legs. Left knee draws in, compress the core, keep the lips lifted high. One more breath. Woo! Exhale. Child's pose, arms down to your sides as you rest a forehead. So I like to bring my arms down to my sides in between because it gives my shoulders more of a break than if my hands are reaching forward. It's just better blood circulation. Okay, doing a little bit of wrist circles here. Reverse direction. Trying to see how long this video is. Okay, 32 minutes. All right. So I have about 10 more minutes of playing with handstands. Maybe less because I want to have some cool down as well. So we'll say 5 more minutes of playing and then cool down. Okay. So that was option number 1. And I'm going to keep building my handstands from there to make them a little more challenging. The thing is, if you feel fear at any point, I want you to lower just a little bit. So if your feet felt like they were too lifted, lower your feet down a little bit. Wherever you can go, where you can settle your nervous system and hang out there for a while, that's where you want to go. And over time, you can hang out a little bit higher of a level. Okay? We have to really reprogram our mind here. So, option 1 is doing exactly what you did again, where we walk our legs up relatively high, trying to keep that flat-like shape, engaging the rib cage down towards the pelvis as much as we can. Nice, strong core. If your core is not feeling strong enough right now, go ahead, do a few sit-ups while I'm talking here. The more that you can engage your core, your ab muscles, the easier it actually is to hold your handstand. Mine feels nice and warmed up though, so go ahead and do it if you need to. So the next option, you can do what we just did, or you walk your feet up. And this time we're going to do handstand walks. So we're going to walk our hands in, walk the feet up a little higher. And you can see the closer I get, the more vertical I am, and the scarier this is. So you might walk your left hand in a little bit more, right hand in a little bit more. Draw the belly button into the spine, take the right knee into the chest. Push the knuckle down underneath the index finger especially. Switch sides. Switch sides. Woo! Take a few more breaths. And then slowly walk yourself back out or back down until you come back into child's pose. I'm going to do a few wrist circles. Shake, shake, shake. Child's pose, arms down to my sides. So when you're in your child's pose, actually rest. Slow down the breath. Notice if any areas in your body still feel tight. And that's a good cue to know when you're doing handstand practice, you might need to spend a little bit more time opening up the hamstrings, opening up the forearms, strengthening your core. So taking any of the things that I've shown you in this workshop and applying it to your practice. Okay, so those are 2 options, using the wall in a more fearless way. Now we're gonna start by jumping against the wall. So before we jump into the wall, it's important to know the ways to fall out of handstand. Now, if you're just jumping up to the wall, you can jump back down. So you jump up and down. Otherwise, you can fall to your side, sort of like a cartwheel. Now, if you're like me and you're inside your home right now, I do not have a lot of space to fall to my side. You might have a huge home. I have a very tiny home. It's like 900 square feet, 4 people, 4 animals. It's a lot, right? So if you were gonna fall, I will do my best to show you how I would fall out of handstand. You would come into your handstand, working on lifting the leg rather than jumping the leg. Lift. And then when you notice that you're gonna fall, go to the side. So let one side fall over like a little cartwheel. But the intention is not to do a cartwheel. That's just if you're gonna fall, right? So you're getting used to falling to your side. You lift, oh gosh, and you fall. Sort of like pushing one hand off of the other, whichever direction you wanna go, okay? So that's one way to practice. Other way, it's finding a wall. I hope I don't kick my art. Kicking yourself up, finding the wall gently if you can. So if you have both legs up to the wall, cool. The way we practice is the way we came down, one leg at a time. Slowly open your legs into a scissor, wide legs, and then hinging from the hips, let the leg fall down gently, okay? So those are two of the ways that I like to play with falling. Now, if you're a big handstander, the professional handstanders, the ones that like compete, say you don't fall out of handstand because they're in so much control. They literally do not fall. They choose when to exit handstand. So they choose when to enter and they choose when to exit. Supposedly this is common knowledge. I've been practicing handstand for a few years and I still fall all the freaking time. I'm not in control of my entrance and my exit every single time. It's probably more often that I'm less in control than I am not. Okay, so just give yourself time and grace, knowing that you're gonna fall a lot before you start to feel the muscles build to stack yourself right on top of the other, okay? So we have lots of information we're using here, right? We're like, oh God, I have to have my knuckles down. I wanna have my forearms inner spiraling and my upper arms outer spiraling. I need my core engaged, I need my sternum lifted. Yeah, that's why handstand's hard. That's why we need workshops for it. 45 minutes is not going to be enough for me to show you every single trick that I know because it just isn't. I need many hours. But hopefully I've given you some tools to help you find a more solid handstand. Okay? So now that we know how to fall, we have an option now to jump into handstand against the wall. I'm going to use this wall again. Hopefully you can see me. I'm going to get myself close because the way I'm going to do this handstand is trying to engage my core. So what often I'll see happen is people will jump up into their handstand. Okay, sorry. They'll jump into their handstand and then they'll do this hollow back, this banana back. And that is fine. That is a pose. But if you're just practicing handstand, when you bring your feet to the wall, drag your feet down low enough so there's a bend in your knees. And then really pull the hips over the head. So you're now tucking the rib cage down towards the hip bones. Keep pushing your knuckles into the ground, the webbing underneath your hands. Maybe one foot can float. Maybe both feet can float. And then slowly find your way down whenever you're ready. Come back into your child's pose, arms down to your sides. Every single time, allowing yourself to rest. You can do shoulder and wrist rolls here. Okay. So we've done option 1, option 2, handstand walks, option 3, jumping up against the wall, but really engaging the core. And I'll show you that one more time. When we take one leg off of the wall. I see a comment. Okay. Piece by piece. Oh, thank you. Okay. So we're going to try again, jumping up against the wall. And here's the thing. If we're actually taking one of my real handstand workshops, if you've taken a few of my classes, I will say if you hit the wall, come back down. If you hit the wall, come back down. Because what you're doing there is you're training yourself to overkick every single time, right? If you're training yourself to jump up and hit the wall, every single time that you try to do it in the center of the room, guess what you're going to do? You're going to go over. You're going to fall into wheel or you're going to fall into handstand. And so if I'm actually wanting to practice handstand in the middle of the room, then I would be teaching you every time that you kick up, come back down. Because if you hit the wall, you went too far. But I'm assuming most of us aren't ready for handstand in the middle of the room yet. If you are one of those people who's ready for handstand against in the middle of the room, if you hit the wall, come back down. Okay? You're working on just stacking yourself in handstand. The wall is there for you just in case. It's a prop. Don't let it be a crutch. But if you're practicing just feeling the foundation, how is this even supposed to feel in my body? I have no freaking idea. Use the wall then. So I think most of us are in that kind of mindset. Like I want to feel handstand. I don't want to fall into wheel in the middle of the room, but I need to know what muscles I need to fill. So I'm going to use the wall for that situation, okay? So let's try it one more time. If that didn't feel scary to you, bring your hands a little bit closer, okay? So they're maybe a foot apart, a foot away from the wall. So we're going to do what we did with the standing splits again. Seeing if we can float ourselves up instead of jump up. So finding your way into standing splits, you might need to reposition yourself a little closer or further away from the wall. Lifting whatever leg up you'd like. Lift the heel, root the hands, press through the hands, push the hands around. So we're going to rock and roll ourselves here. Rock and roll, heel comes down, heel goes up. Lift the leg up a little higher. Maybe the foot floats. And then maybe you slowly press yourself up. Maybe you jump yourself up, trying to float more than jump, leading with the heel or the back of the body, okay? This time, keep one leg straight as you draw the right knee into your chest. Right knee into your chest, okay? Now know if you fall, that you're gonna just slowly allow your legs to open up wide, scissor the legs, so then one leg can come down at a time. Keep drawing the right knee into your chest, compress, 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 and then eventually you'll feel that top leg float away from the wall, okay? What we're doing there is we're engaging our muscles. Those pesky little muscles. Okay, switching sides. So if you lifted the right leg up first, standing splits on the other side. I have my left leg down this time. This is my hamstring that's annoying me, so I'm going to have a little bit of a wider stance and more of a bend in my knee. And I'm definitely going to have to jump up more for this one because I don't have as much flexibility. The more flexibility you have, the easier it will be to jump up. So let's find that rotation of the arms first this time. Externally rotate the outer arms, internally spiral the wrists. Slowly bring your hands down to the ground, keeping that spreadiness of the blades, and then kick yourself up to the wall. Use the wall if you need to. This time the left knee draws into the chest. You're trying to kiss that knee almost. Looking in between your hands for a steady drishti, steady gaze. Keep drawing the left knee into the chest. Maybe the right leg floats. Left knee into the chest. Use your fingertips. Use the palm. Hold here. Hold here. And slowly find your way down. Wrist circles. Woo, child's pose. All right. So we're going to do one more handstand of your choice. It can be anything we just practiced. It might be called Shavasana handstand, where you're laying on your back with your arms overhead. That's perfectly fine. You choose. Maybe you want to practice getting a little bit further away from the wall. How do you practice getting away from the wall? Easy. You step away from the wall. Still make sure, though, that you have enough distance where your legs can find the wall if you're afraid of falling. So for me, I've done a million handstands. I know that my legs will be able to find the wall once I place my hands down here. And I'm going to practice a handstand trick called scissor legs. So I'm trying to move my legs from an open, wide angle to closed. Okay? So I'm not a gymnast here. I'm not going ta-da and then bring my hands down. I'm just bringing my arms out halfway, parallel with the ground, external rotation of the upper arms, spiraling the inner arms, and then I start to lift the leg, scissor jump. Keeping my hands down, right leg lift, scissor jump and switch. And then do that again and switch. And you'll feel more air time as you bring awareness to your hands. And do as many or as little as you like. Try to keep your hips square. Sometimes see, I have my wall, it's right there. Coming back down, because otherwise I'm teaching myself old habits. Let's do a few more. If your arms are getting tired, find your way down. Join me down to the ground. Shake, shake, shake. So just like we began class, we're going to do the same thing, opening our hands out wide. Knuckles, fingers shoot forward. Palms come in, knuckles, roll, shake, shake, shake. Taking your fingers, making a flat palm. Switching hands. Bending your hand in, straighten the elbow. Switching hands. Wrists. Reverse. Shake, shake. Child's pose, hybrid. And the right hand down. Left hand's going to come right on top of the right hand. And then taking the left knee over to the forearm. So you might need to walk yourself into a little tinier ball. So if you want to take Alyssa's yoga ball warm up, maybe she'll do a forearm stretch with the balls. But otherwise, this is a way that you can use your knee to relieve any strain in the forearms, especially that inner forearm. When you practice a lot of handstands all the time, you will start to notice aches and pains in your wrists and your forearms for sure. There is no question. You're activating new muscles. You're straining them. These are tiny muscles, you know. These are not these big muscles that we have in the lower part of our body. So we really want to be careful with them. We want to stretch them up at the beginning, and we want to cool them down at the end. All right. So that feels nice. I went down and up my arm a couple times. I'm going to switch sides here. Bring the forearm down, right hand on top of the left. Walk yourself in. So the right knee, it's the opposite knee of the arm that you are trying to release. And then start to draw little circles, putting any weight that you like into your knee. The more weight you put in, the deeper you'll feel this. And let me know by commenting or emailing me later how you did. I have my own YouTube page. I'll leave it in the comments. If you just look up Leslie Germain Yoga, you can find me there. I post a lot of content as well. You can also add me on Instagram or Facebook. Okay, let's do one more of the shoulder stretch. Switching sides. Okay, so I'm going to leave you here. If there's anything else you need to do to settle down your practice, Shavasana, this is a workshop, so I'm going to let you do your own thing. Go ahead. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Nancy, and you guys have a lovely day. Bye.